This is Kurt Nielsen with eMortgage Hawaii, and this is my 2017 forecast for the Hawaii mortgage and housing market. So let's start off and see where we are in mortgages today. Remember, this is a bond chart. As prices go down, rates go up. So ever since the election, mortgage rates have been going up. We've gone up from about 3.5% at the beginning of November to about 4.125% at the end of December. Since then, there's been a little bit of relaxation. We're at about 4%. But we do think that this trend will resume. There'll be ups and downs, but throughout the year we expect mortgage rates to rise in 2017. The opposite was happening with the stock market. With the Trump election, Wall Street really likes the idea of lower corporate tax rates that are being promised, and that has really driven the stock market. The Dow broke 20,000, which is a first. Now we do think that this is a little bit overbought, and there might be a correction, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. One thing that's very interesting, and this has never happened since I've been in the mortgage business, is jumbo rates are now below conforming rates. You can get a 30-year fixed rate up to $4 million for 3.875%. That's just amazing. It's below the conforming rate of 4%. Another thing to look at are these ARM rates, very low. Great opportunity for people to get into ARMs, and I think that they're going to come back into favor because most people don't hold a mortgage for more than 5 or 6 years. They either refinance, buy a new home, pull some money out. So we do think that people that are not going to keep a loan for 30 years ought to look at the ARMs. You just save a lot of money, and again, if you get a 30-year fix and don't keep it for more than 5 or 6 years, you're just paying for something you're not using. So let's look at my 2016 predictions. We had forecasted the 10-year Treasury note that would drop below 2%. We started at 2.245 and dropped all the way down to 1.325% before it started rising again. Our forecast for home price appreciation was 5 to 6%. We were up 6.2%. So really strong housing market. The only miss, we had forecasted a correction in the stock market. It did start to decline in February, but since then has really been on a tear, especially since the Trump election. So we do think that is an area in 2017 that we might see a correction. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And then we also had forecasted that the Fed would only hike rates one time, and we were right on target. Most people were forecasting 4 rate hikes, so we were right on target with the Fed prediction. So let's look at 2017 dynamics. Obviously, the Trump administration is one of the big unknowns, and what they end up doing, what they can get through. So big infrastructure projects, lower tax rates, that's all going to have a big impact on the market in 2017. We do think inflation will remain tame, but it is heating up a little bit, and that'll put pressure on mortgage rates. Home inventory levels remain very low and will continue to be very low, so that'll put pressure on home prices. And the reason for this is we're simply not building enough homes. We're only building about 1.1 million homes a year. We need about 1.5 million homes a year to keep up with the population growth. And that's mainly due to the banking industry is just very tight. They're not lending to the small mom and pop builder. So until regulations are relaxed and the banks start lending more to the mom and pop builder, we're going to just have very tight inventory. Again, modestly higher rates shouldn't affect the housing market too much, but it's something to keep in mind. And even though the U.S. manufacturing sector has been very lackluster, with some of the deregulation, lower tax rates, and promises to bring money back into the United States from companies like Microsoft and Apple, we might see some real pickup here in U.S. manufacturing. And then looking at the Fed, the Fed's talking about 3 to 4 rate hikes. Internally, we just don't see that. So getting back to stocks, we just think it's very toppy with this extremely high investor optimism. Sometimes that gets kind of dangerous. They overreact and the stock market goes up too much. Again, the Dow broke 20,000, and the last few times that the Dow broke through these big levels, they did retract, and it took many, many years to get back to those levels. So this may not happen to the Dow, but we do think that there's a possibility of a correction in the stock market. So looking at the Fed, this is the way we ended 2016. We had three hawks. Hawks are people that want to raise rates. Doves are members that don't want to raise rates, and then some centrists. So if you look at where we are today, we only have one hawk left, four centrists, and five doves. So this is why we don't think the Fed's going to raise rates 4 times. We're thinking, really more like 1 to 2 Fed rate hikes this year. Now remember, this only affects home equity lines of credit, credit cards. It's the prime lending rate. It doesn't have a direct effect on mortgage rates, but over time, if the Fed is raising rates, mortgage rates will go up. So we're only predicting 1 to 2 rate hikes. Mortgage rates, inflation is a main driver for mortgage rates. So we will see rates moving a little bit higher, but not astronomically. This is really driven by global yields are rising in Europe and Japan and China. So we do see that that's going to have a pressure on U.S. yields. And also, if these infrastructure projects that are being promised by Trump actually get underway, that puts more pressure on the money supply, and that also has a negative impact on rates. So we're predicting a Treasury note over 3% this year, and then mortgage rates possibly exceeding 5% by the end of the year. Still great rates, but that's a big jump from 4% today. It's 25% growth in the mortgage rates, so that's something to tell your clients to buy now and not wait. Okay, on housing, we still see extremely low inventory for the reasons we talked about. We have rising rents, 4% per year, so we see that driving renters into the purchase market. Even though we're going to have modestly higher rates, I don't think that'll derail the housing market whatsoever. And remember that because incomes are rising, and they're rising at 2 to 2.5% per year right now, which is a nice pace. But to maintain a 5% growth in housing prices, you only need a 1% growth in household income because of the way we leverage. And we have 2.5 times that. So we could really support a housing price rise of double digits on infinitum with this kind of income, household income increase. So don't believe what you hear in the news that incomes aren't keeping pace with housing. They don't need to, because we leverage real estate. We only need a 1 to 5 ratio, 1% rise in income for 5% rise in housing. So demand will remain strong because of these reasons, and we're projecting 5 to 5.5% appreciation here in Hawaii. So looking at Hawaii housing a little bit in more detail, Oahu ended 2016 with a 5% year-over-year rise. We had forecasted something a little less than that, so it outperformed. I expect 3 to 4% in 2017. Maui ended 2016 with a 10% year-over-year rise, and that was on the heels of a bad 2015. So maybe there was a little bit of pent-up demand, but I expect a modest continuation, about 5%. Consistent with the rest of the nation. And Kauai ended 2016 with only a 2% year-over-year rise, but that was after a 15.1% rise in 2015. So maybe there was just a little bit of a cooling off. So we expect 4 to 5% in 2017. The Big Island ended 2016 with only a 0.3% year-over-year rise, but if you tear apart the numbers, this was really due to a sharp rise in home sales in the lower cost areas on the island on the east and south side. So, when you look at it on the west side of Hawaii, 5% year over year, it was really actually a very good performing market. Just because we had so many sales on the lower end, it just moved that medium sales price down a little bit. But each market is doing quite well, as you can see on the Big Island. So we expect that to continue. We think 2017 is going to be a great year for housing in Hawaii and across the nation. So I'd like to just kind of leave you with some things that we're doing here at eMortgage Hawaii that might help with your business. Remember, my team is very experienced. I'm probably the least experienced person on my team with 14 years of experience and over $1 billion in closed loans. We've recently implemented a workflow system that we're really proud of. It's a way to keep you updated several times a week automatically through our system. And then we're now offering a whole slew of co-branded marketing services to the realtors that are working with us, pretty much free of charge. We can talk a little bit more about that. But getting back to our workflow system, as we complete tasks in our workflow system, it automatically communicates out to everybody involved in the transaction, even to a mobile app that you can keep on your phone to keep track of transactions. So as my staff are clicking off on task and completing the loan, these milestones are reached, and we communicate out that those milestones are reached. And you'll get this little email out that conditional loan approval has been received. And at the bottom of each of these communications is a calendar showing you all of the tasks that we need to complete and where we are in the process. Are we ahead? Are we behind? So you'll always know how we're doing on a transaction. And then this mobile app, which you can put on your phone, is co-branded with you, and you can give it to your client. So your client can actually see what documents that they're missing that they haven't supplied us, and they can actually upload them directly from their cell phone. This is actually almost as fast as a fax machine, so no excuse why documents aren't submitted in a timely manner. And it keeps you completely updated with the status of that transaction. And finally, talk about our co-branded marketing systems that we offer. This is all for $1 a month. It's all automatic. You hardly have to do anything. So we start off with a system that we look into the MLS every night to see if you have a new listing. If you have a new listing, we create a website for that listing. And then we create mobile tours from your photos in the MLS. And then when people drive by, they can text a sign that we give you, and they can get a mobile tour downloaded right to their phone right as they're sitting out in front of the home. And then you automatically get their phone number, so you can actually call them while they're still out in front of your listing. These virtual tours are both branded and non-branded, so they're MLS compliant. You can put them back onto the MLS. And then we boost that website and those virtual tours to over 70, 80 websites around the country that will promote your listing. We also have an integrated social media sharing, so you can have a Facebook link, Twitter, LinkedIn links, and it's ever fresh, so your listings are always updated every night. We even have a feature to post to Craigslist, and it really does eliminate some of the riffraff that you get from Craigslist. So it's the way we've designed it. You really have to be a real person interested in the property in order for you to get that lead. And we have flyers for your open houses. And then finally, we feature your listing on national TV. This is the only streaming TV channel where you can shop for property nationwide. And if somebody's looking for property in your zip code, you'll be featured with your name and face, whereas if you're not with us, you don't get featured. Another new feature we've added is when you send us a client to get pre-qualified, once they're qualified, we co-brand a drip marketing campaign for the next 13 weeks to keep your client fresh, you fresh in your client's mind. So every week they're going to get something with your name and my name on it until they get into escrow on a property. We also have a weekly realtor seminar, so every Tuesday you can dial into a webinar and listen to other realtors across the United States on what they're doing to grow their business and some business tips and new ideas on how to grow your business. And finally, we're doing some social media training so that you can come to a class, and if you don't know anything about a Facebook fan page, bring your laptop and you'll leave that seminar with an operating Facebook fan page. So we help you with all this social media integration. Since we're having to do it, we're learning it, and we're just going out to our realtor partners and showing them how to do the same. So that's it. I appreciate the time. If you have any questions, call me at 334-6201, and if you'd like to get set up with our marketing systems, we'd be happy to do that. Have a great 2017.